1 second. I'm just going to break in, Rabbi. Hey, good day, everybody. Welcome back to our Genesis class live from Jerusalem with Rabbi Chaim Goldberg of the Noahide World Center. Today, he's going to be talking about pharmacy and Hashem's commandments, and I look forward to seeing how this unfolds. So let's just jump right in. The rabbi's doing today. Shalom, Rabbi. You're live on social media, on YouTube and Facebook, and we're going to turn the class over to you, Rabbi.
Good evening, everybody. Good to see you all from all over the world. Also with the new people, with other people, with those for a long time together. Yes, today we'll continue a bit about the mitzvot, about the commandments of God. A few things that we want to continue, and then we will have also another interesting session that is related. Again, we're getting a lot of questions and a lot of things. I think that what happened lately, there is some sort of awakeness of the Noahide movement because of all of the seminars and the things that we did all over the world. So it's good, it's great. And people have a lot of good questions and we need to address them to discuss and to understand what's happening with the Noahide movement, or with the ideas, okay, of the Hebrew nation. So good to see you all, and let's straight ahead jump inside. And the first thing I want to address is related with the question of the number of the mitzvot, of the commandments. I will say as a statement, I'm not going to go inside to this issue now, but we got two Bibles. One is the written one, and the other one is the oral Bible, okay? Not the new and the old one. We don't have an Old Testament, a New Testament, sorry. We don't have a New Testament. We have only the Testament, the Bible, the Hebrew Bible. But we also got an oral Bible with a lot of ideas and a lot of things inside. And I'm sure that you've already heard, all of you, the number of the commandments that the Hebrew nation have. How much is it? Do you know the number?
613.
613. Okay. So let's see. I don't know if you noticed, but lately I'm trying to show the sources to learn the things from inside. Let me share the screen and we will see the source of this thing. Let me share the entire screen. Everything's fine. Excellent. It is. Let's okay. So we have in the Makot. Makot is one of the Babylon Talmud. It's part of the Babylon Talmud, okay? Seret Makot, the punishment that you give to people if they are disobeying God's words. And let's read it for a moment. It's not a long part. We're starting here. You see it?
Yes,
no.
Rabbi Similai taught.
Yeah, exactly. Rabbi Similai taught, please.
Rabbi Similai taught there are, 1 second, Rabbi. There are 613 mitzvot stated to Moses in the Torah, consisting of 365 prohibitions corresponding to the number of days in the solar year, and 248 positive mitzvot corresponding to the number of a person's limbs. Rav Hamnuna said, "What is the verse that alludes to this? It is written, Moses commanded us the Torah, an inheritance of the congregation of Jacob," from Deuteronomy 33:4. The word Torah, in terms of its numerical value in gematria, is 611. The number of the mitzvot that were received and taught by Moses, our teacher. In addition, there are two mitzvot. I am the Lord your God, and you shall have no other gods, from Exodus 20, verses 2 and 3. The first two of the 10 commandments that we heard from the mouth of the Almighty, for a total of 613.
This is enough. So we have here an interesting state of Rabbi Simlai, that we have 613 mitzvot, okay? That's it. And it's also related to the world and to the human, okay? You see? There are 365 prohibitions of what not to do, just like Adam and Eve got from God the prohibition not to eat from the tree of life. okay, and or not to eat from the tree of wisdom, and they ate from the tree of wisdom. We spoke of the same tree, everything. We're not going to this issue. So there are 365 prohibitions that are related with the full year, okay, that we have, and we have also 248 positive mitzvot, commandments of what to do, that are corresponding with the numbers of the person, parts, limbs, okay, all the parts of the person. So if he is doing the right actions, and if he is providing from not doing the wrong things, he is managing to maintain the world on one side and to give more life to his limbs on the other side. Okay, this is how we have some sort of a relation between the actions that we are doing and the mitzvot, commandments that we got from God. I must say that we don't see anything earlier than that. We're speaking about already something like 300 and 400 years after the counting of the years. So if the Hebrew nation was already for almost 2,000 years before that, we don't see any other source that is speaking about the number of the mitzvot. On the other side, almost most of the great rabbis took this number. We have a few books that are expressing those mitzvot. One of them is very known, the Maimonides, okay? You can see this book, Sefer HaMitzvot. You can see it, maybe, yes. See, Sefer HaMitzvot, the book of he is counting exactly all the number and all the 613. We have another very famous book. We have a few famous books, but I'm showing here too. Another very, very famous book. It's called Sefer HaChinuch, okay? The educational book. Now, this book was written down by someone as a present, okay? It was written down 600 years ago already, as a present to his son who came to the age of 13. And the present that he gave him is a book with the 613 commandments and the order of the Bible. Okay, what in each parsha? What are we giving for? What are the mitzvot in each parsha? We have more books about those who are trying to count the exact numbers. I want to show here for a moment something from Genesis and something from Exodus that Rashi is referring also and showing that he is also nominating this number 613. Let's go for a moment in Genesis. In Genesis, when Jacob is coming back from his exile with his family, and he's sending, please read verse number 4.
Verse 4, Jacob sent angels ahead of him to his brother Esau to the land of Seir, the field of Edom.
Okay, after he ran away from Esau because Esau hated him and wanted to kill him. After 21 years, he's coming back and he's sending angels, he's sending messengers to Esau, I'm coming back. Let's read for a moment what exactly is he saying to them. Please read verse number 5.
5, and he commanded them, saying, So shall you say to my master to Esau, Thus saith your servant Jacob, I have sojourned with Laban, and I have tarried until now.
Fair enough. Now, the word I was sergeant, okay, the word sergeant, oh, the mouse is not working, sorry. Okay, the word sergeant, I lived, okay, is written down here. And if you will see this is the exact numerate number of 613. Taryag, Taf is 400, Resh is 200, so we have 400, 200, how much is it? It's 600. You have Yud, the letter Yud is 10, and Gimel is 3, so we have 613. Now please read, I have sergeant, okay, so let's read for more, just a moment.
Rashi says,
Another example, we don't need to read everything. Please, another example, explanation, sorry.
Another explanation has the numerical value of 613. That is to say, I lived with the wicked Laban, but I kept the 613 commandments, and I did not learn from his evil deeds.
So we hear that Rashi here is hinting, or is finding the hint inside the verses that we have 613 mitzvot. How come Jacob did all those mitzvot before the Torah was given to the Hebrew nation? It's a different question, okay? I won't go inside. The concept of the 613 mitzvot, this is the most important thing here, and this is why I want to show you also from Exodus, okay? When God is saying, this is what we read yesterday, by the way. God is saying to Moses, please read verse number 12. We are in chapter 24, okay? This is a chapter
Exodus
that is
chapter 24. Yeah,
explaining exactly how God gave us the Ten Commandments and the Torah. So in verse number 12, we have this, please read the verse, please.
And the Lord said to Moses, come up to me to the mountain and remain there, and I will give you the stone tablets, the law and the commandments which I have written to instruct them.
So look, we have here three things. Okay, three things. The stone, the stones. This is where we have the Ten Commandments. The Torah is what is the written Bible, and the commandments is the oral Bible. Okay, there is a connection between them, but those are three parts of the Torah. We'll call it like that. Let's read for a moment. What are the stones, tablets, and the laws? Please read here.
The stone tablets, the law, and the commandments which I have written to instruct them, all 613 are included in the 10 commandments, in the Azaroth that he composed for each commandment of the 10. Rabbanu Sadia Gaon explained the mitzvot dependent upon it, each commandment from Jonathan, from Numbers Rabbah 13:16.
So we have here already the 613 mitzvot that God is giving to the Hebrew nation. And we have Rabbeinu Sadia Gaon, who is a very, very earlier sage. Okay, we're speaking about someone that was living almost 1,200 years ago, that he is showing how the Ten Commandments is being breaking down as, I will say, it's like a chapter, that each one of them having a lot of mitzvot, a lot of commandments that are going from those 10 commandments. And if you will look inside, you will see that all the 613 commandments are related to one of the 10s. This is what Rabbeinu Sadia Gaon showed or explained in his book. Now, I just want to mention that there is something very unique. The word Ruth is the person. We have what we call Megillat Ruth. Ruth is the grandmother of King David, and she came from Moab. She wasn't from the Hebrew nation, but she did a conversion, and she came with her mother-in-law back to Israel, and she got married with Boaz, and then they had, after a few generations, also King David. And the word Ruth in numeric numbers, Taf, is it's 606, and our sages are saying she was keeping the 7 laws of Noach, and she added to herself another 606, so together it's 620. Okay, and it's related also to the 10 commandments. I won't go inside to all of the numeric numbers and everything else, but in this way, our sages are saying that the 7 laws of Noach are, the 613 are on top, the 7 of the laws of Noach, and to fulfill them, all of them together, you need to be a converted person. The main thing is also the 7 laws of Noach, we said it more than once, have something like 31, 32 mitzvot, or commandments that God is giving us. What I wanted more to show here is that this 613 is something that is related, as we saw here, is related with the world, with the structure of the body on one side, and with the structure of the days of the cycle of the year. Okay, it's related with the world. It's something that is related with the year is a time, okay, and the structure of us as a body, okay, is a person. And those are two things that we can't run away from this world. When we are in this world, we are in some sort of I will say, the body wheel that we have, wish on one side, and we are also under the time zone in some sort of a way of the history or whatever it is, that we can't run away. And the mitzvot, the commandments, are related to those things. And this is the numbers that we have. There are also one or two sages that we know that are a bit against this specific number, and they're saying that it's only a midrash, a bit more, a bit less, but mainly the main structure of the Hebrew nation is going with this number of the 613, and according to the inside part of the Torah, what we call the Kabbalah side, there are a lot of ideas that are related to those numbers. This is the first part that we need to know about the number of the mitzvot. But now let's go on to another, let's go deeper a bit more, more profound, with the understanding of why do we need to obey and to do those mitzvot, okay? So people will answer me, you know what, maybe I will ask everybody here. Why do we need to obey to those mitzvot? Why do we need to do those mitzvot? Why? Please give me some answers. Can you see me clear? Yes, fair enough.
They connect us to Hashem.
On one way, you're a good student. You've heard me a few times. Yes, to connect us to Hashem. Thank you very much. Okay, it's connecting us to Hashem. Can you explain this in some way?
By doing them with the right kavanah, with the right intent, then there is a connection with Hashem and a revelation of His presence.
Okay, thank you very much. It's an interesting idea. Does anyone else have another idea? Thank you very much,
it is what Hashem asked. It's what He required.
The word, it's interesting what you're saying, Dan. When you're saying you required, what you're saying basically is that you're saying that I don't have explanation, but I need to do what he's asking me to do. Something like that. It's interesting.
You can't have two parties of a relationship without the will of each.
Bless you. You're right. I'm not saying. I'm just trying to explain things that you're saying. It's okay. Fine. Thank you very much, Dan. Does anyone else have another idea? Why do we need to fulfill the commandments of God? Yes.
It was part of the covenant which the Hebrew people struck and agreed with Hashem.
It's interesting. This is a verse, one verse. I'm strengthening your words. One verse before the verse that you read now in Exodus is saying that the Hebrew nation. Maybe we need to show this. The Hebrew nation is saying to God, everything that you ask us to do, we will obey. Okay, we will obey.
I was raised to obey authority. Did I interrupt you, Rabbi? I'm sorry.
Just a moment, James. I will give you.
Okay.
I will give you to say. It's very important for me to hear you. You see, if you read verse number 7, it's a few verses before what we read.
Verse 7, and he took the book of the covenant and read it within the hearing of the people, and they said, all that the Lord spoke we will do and we will hear.
And the meaning of this is, we will do, first of all, we will do them. Then we will try to explain to ourselves, we will hear, we will listen. What is the meaning of those things? But first of all, we need to obey. As you said, Mike, we have some sort of a covenant with God. We accepted everything that He said to us to do. Fair enough, thanks. Please, James, yes, you wanted to say also something, please.
I was going to say something about the way I was raised was to respect authority and to follow it. And if the authority is absolute, I'm going to do that because I have fear. I fear the authority that's in charge.
Okay,
But then
thank
as
you
I
very,
grew,
very much. Yes, you have something else to say or more to say to add? Sorry.
Then as I grew older, then I reached as I grew up, as I got older, I started to question the authority to see if the authority was fair. I started to do my own thinking. I questioned it. And then during this process, excuse me, I realized that there is something bigger and better than me on the outside, out there in nature, God, if you will. And it's not me. I'm not God. So it's in charge. And I need to follow that process of being obedient to it.
Wow, you said a few things, amazing things. Okay, first of all, thank you very much for sharing this with us. I will relate for all of the words that you said, James, okay, in a few moments. Everybody here, but in a moment, okay? Please, Italo, last one, and then we will continue, please. Yes, Italo, but you need to open your mic.
Out of gratitude, out of love,
We can't hear you clear. Please speak again.
out of being gratitude, having gratitude, being out of love for Hashem. That's why we can do what he wants. Did you hear me?
But the first sentence I didn't heard at all. I'm sorry, maybe it's only me.
Gratitude.
Out of love. Okay, thank you very much. Good,
Gratitude
excellent.
and love. Being thankful. Being thankful.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, excellent. So you said here, all of you said great ideas, and I want to, I will say it like that. I want to go step by step and to show you again. It's very important for me to show those things inside with the sources, so we'll start to see that there is, I will say, some sort of an educational understanding. Okay, we are here not only young teenagers, we are people here that have a bit of experience in life. I will say it like that. So let's go step by step, and we'll see a few things, and we'll start to realize how much it's going profound more and more and more in each stage that we are moving. So I'm sharing the screen again. As you see, I prepared a bit the things. So let's go step by step. The first thing that I want to show here is, here it is. There is it's called the Bereshit Rabbah, okay, the Midrash, and I will ask you to read it in English, please. After those things.
After these things, the word of Hashem came to Abram in a vision, saying, from Psalms 18:31, as for Hashem, his ways are perfect. The word of Hashem is tried. A shield is he for all who take refuge in him. If his way is perfect, how much more is he himself? Rav said, were not the mitzvot given so that man might be refined by them? Do you really think that the Holy One of Blessing cares if an animal is slaughtered by front or by the back of the neck? Therefore, mitzvot were only given to make humans better.
This is what the first words that James said to us. Okay, you need to do those mitzvot. God doesn't really care. I will say it's written down. I'm not saying anything here. Okay, he doesn't really care if you will do this in this way and that way, but you need to obey to him. You need to understand that you are that you must obey to God, and the mitzvot or the commandments were being given to us, so we will be in some sort of a structure in this world. It's a bit reminding me, so it will be close to us, so we will realize what's happening. A soldier, okay, who must put also the exact, I will say, hat on his head, and the exact, all the clothing, the exact clothing on him, to be very strict, because as a soldier, he must be inside. Is it really matter if you will wear this hat or the other hat? Yes, it's matter only for the thing of the structure of the world. And the same thing is this Midrash is saying. And the first understanding is you need to do those things as some sort of a discipline to get under the guidance of God and to obey to the Almighty who created this world. This is what the Midrash is saying. Those are the first words of James. And it's good and it's excellent when you are young, I will say it like that. When you're beginning the first steps, start everything with this attitude. There's another way. I'm not going to show a midrash for that, but I'm going to say this, that we can look at this and the way, and this is what I sent also on the email. We have, most of the countries have a law, all sorts of laws, how to behave on the road, right? When you're driving. Now, this is a very good, I will say, ideas that it's good for us to follow them. Because if we won't follow them, we might get hurt from another car, from an accident, something else. Even if not another car, for example, God forbid, someone who is going inside to the car and not putting his seat belt, and if he, God forbid, will get, upside down, he might get much more harm. So the laws of this thing is for our good sake. Here we're not doing the laws because we want to get, to understand that we need to be under the guidance of God and to have a very big humility in front of God. But we're doing the laws because God is helping us. But I want to go inside to another idea that Rabbi Yehuda Halevi is giving us in a very interesting way, and we need to realize that he is speaking with us with two levels, I'll say it like that. So for that, I'm going to jump for a moment to the Kuzari. Okay, we're going to read a specific paragraph. It's a long one. We have 3 parts of this paragraph, and the paragraph is explaining to us why to do the commandments of God. And it's a different idea. It's not the idea of this midrash that we see here in the screen now, to obey to God. And it's not the idea that it's going to give us good advices, something a bit else. So please, let's read it careful, step by step. Okay? And I'm calling it
The Sorcerer's Apprentice.
Okay, we have a lot of ancient stories that, if you think about them, you will realize that it's really related with the very profound ideas of the Hebrew tradition. Okay, one of them is this story. Please.
Okay, the rabbi said to the Kuzari king, "These conditions which render man fit to receive this divine influence do not lie within him. He can't gauge their quantity or quality, even if their essence were known. Neither their time, place, and connection nor suitability could be discovered. For this, inspired and detailed instruction is necessary. He who has been thus inspired and obeys the teaching in every respect with a pure mind is a believer. Whosoever strives by speculation and deduction to prepare the conditions for the reception of this inspiration, or by divining, as is found in the writings of astrologers, trying to call down supernatural beings or manufacturing talismans, such a man is an unbeliever. He may bring offerings and burn incense in the name of speculation and conjecture, whilst he is in reality ignorant of what he should do, how much, in which way, and by what means, in this place, by whom, in which manner, and many other details, the enumeration of which would lead too far."
Just a moment. Let's speak till here, okay? The rabbi is answering here. If you want to get connected with God, if you want to get connected with the Almighty who brought, created this world, how can you do that? There are 2 ways. You can try to understand with yourself what is the way to get connected with him. And you can basically speak with him, or he will speak with you, but hey, this is the right way, what we call the prophecy. And he will tell you, this is what I need, this is what I want. He doesn't need it, okay? But this is the way of you getting related with me. If you're doing those things because this is your understanding, your deduction, your mindset, so you're worshiping yourself. You're not worshiping God. And this is where you might get in the false way. But if you're doing this in a way that God asks you to do, through the prophecy, so then you can get related with God. You're starting to get closer to the words that Bart mentioned before, how to get closer to God. He is telling us the ladder, the way to climb to him with the things that we are doing. It's not just to obey to him. It's not just to good ideas that will help us. It's more a way with the ladder to get connected with him. Now let's see the example that he is giving, the what we said before. The example is this interesting story, old story that we all know. Please.
Okay, so he's talking about the people that use these dark arts.
Exactly.
He is like an ignoramus who enters the surgery of a physician famous for the curative powers of his medicines. The physician is away, but people come for medicines. The fool dispenses them out of the jars, knowing nothing of the contents, nor how much should be given to each person. Thus he kills with the very medicine which should have cured them. Should he by chance have effected a cure with one of the drugs, the people will turn to him and say that he helped them till they discovered that he deceived them. Or they seek other advice and cling to this without noticing that the natural cure was effected by the skill of the learned physician who prepared the medicines and explained the proper manner in which they should be administered. He also taught the patients what food and drink, exercise and rest, etc., was necessary, what air was the best, and which place of repose. Like unto the patients duped by the ignoramus, so were men, with few exceptions, before the time of Moses.
So
They
we
were
have here,
Okay.
just a moment. You know what? Continue, please, till the end. Okay, please. It's few sentences. Say the
They
end.
were deceived by astrological and physical rules, wandered from law to law, from God to God, or adopted a plurality simultaneously. They forgot their guide and master and regarded their false gods as helping causes, whilst they are damaging causes, according to their construction and arrangement. Profitable on this account is the divine influences, hurtful on its account the absence thereof.
So we have here a very interesting, also story, okay, that is showing us the difference between the pure, I will say, prophecy of Moses and all the things before that people decided for themselves what to do and how to do. Well, if you're deciding for yourself, it's one thing, but it's a very ignorance and it's not bringing you to getting closer to God. Maybe for one thing you manage to do the right thing, but it's only trying to hint what God wants from me. On the other side, when you have the master that knows how to organize those drugs and medicines, so you will manage to use them in the right way. Now, I will ask all of us, I think that what Rabbi Yehuda Levi is doing here is something brilliant, because he is not using the idea of a soldier who must obey to his commandments, so he'll be in structure. But he's using a different example. And the example that he's using, and this is the most brilliant thing here, he's using the example of medicine. Now let's look for a moment. Medicine is something that is changing our body. When someone have a body, and God forbid have an illness, he's going to the doctor. Now, let's be honest for a moment. When the doctor is telling us, you need to take this and this medicine, and you need to take this 3 times a day, and also to have this and this amount, we don't really know why this medicine and why exactly this is the amount or this is the exact terms that the medicine will affect and do to our body. But we trust the doctor, okay? I'm remembering all the time when I was young and it wasn't written down on the computer. And the doctor was writing down, and we all know that when the doctors were writing down, we would never understand what he was writing down. And we went to the chemistry and we asked him, to give us the medicine. And I was always saying to myself, he's lying. This person who's giving me all the medicines, because he can't read them also, like I can't read them. So, but we're trusting them. We're trusting that he knows what he's doing. Even though we know today that a lot of things, sometimes after years, we're managing to realize that it wasn't really helping, or we don't really know. But we're trusting them because the science is telling us that this is after the research, and the FDA of the United States is saying, this is a good medicine, other things. We're trusting them. And we're doing those things because it's repairing our body. It's changing our body. Now look for a moment how much wisdom there is in this example. Just like the medicine is repairing the body, or could do a damage if you're not taking the right medicine. And the same thing, if you do the right, I will say, commandments in the exact timing. You remember the days that we said? It's related with the days, with the exact timings, with the exact part of your body. Remember that? We spoke about those things. So you're managing to repair your soul and to get related with God. It's amazing. But again, you need to do this only in a way that the Almighty who created us tells us that this is a way to get related with Him. So it's not only imitating Him in a way, or it's not only to be in a structure or to be in a way that, we need to obey God. This is the first level. It's a much more profound level that God is managing along the years that we are here to repair us to a situation, to a stage that we have, or that we're getting related with God. In another place, I didn't brought it here, but I'll say it by heart. In another place, Rabbi Yehuda Levi is saying or explaining to us that it's like bringing flour to my loved wife, okay? So if I would bring to my wife a needle with a string as a gift for her birthday, she will, be very upset, very insulted, because it's like I'm giving her something that I want her to do for me. It's not a birthday gift. But if I will give her flowers, it's the same amount of money. But there is a meaning inside this in a much more profound level. She's smelling the flowers and she's saying, this is my beloved husband that gave me those flowers. So the level of the relationship is a much more, I will say, in a profound connection because of the symbol that is inside here. So those things are, first of all, doing some sort of effect on our souls. But it's also bringing some sort of a symbolize between us and the connection with God. So it's not only on the level of we need to obey God, fair enough. It's more also on the level that it's really connecting us with God in the way that He ordered us, that He taught us how to get connected with Him. Now, I said it more than once in another way, and I will say this again, but it's related also to this issue. When we are going out from our mother's womb, so the first thing that's happening to us is we're starting to try to get from this world oxygen, okay, with breathing, and also food. So we are a human being that is all the time is receiving from this world. God is giving life. So in the spiritual level, we are just the opposite of God. While God is the giving all the time, ultimate giving, He is not receiving anything from anyone. We are the ultimate receiving and not giving. And one of the things that we need to learn along our life is how to become also those who are giving. The ultimate giving that we can do is to give life to others, what we call children's. And if you don't have children, so at least teach them. So on the spiritual side, they will get also life. Okay? So to become from the selfish side of just receiving, also to give to the world, so the world will be in a better stage, a better space. In all of those commandments is some sort of a medicine to this world, to the specific person, in the framework of the timing, what we said, okay, the mitzvot lo ta'aseh, okay, 365, okay, of the timing on one side and of the body on the other side. What we are here to change us, to move us from the side of that we are receiving to the side that we're also giving, not only receiving. This is how Rabbi Yehuda Levi is explaining the commandments. And it's going to another stage, just like James said before. If the beginning was because this is what God is obeying me to do, so when we're growing up a bit, we understand that this is the way to get connected with God and to heal ourselves, our spirit side, to the better stage and to become partnership with God for this world. I hope it was good, clear enough. I hope everything is clear till now. Or if anyone have any questions, till now for this part, please. Everybody's quiet. Okay.
Rabbi, our friend Angelica there, made a comment in the chat room, and I kind of replied to it. The point being, when certain medications are prescribed, I mean, do people have, the legitimate right to say, no, I don't want any medications? Or when is that being like, as the Kuzari used the term ignoramus, not adhering or taking matters into your own hand?
I think that I will give a simple example, okay? If someone is, God forbid, is breaking his hand, okay, it could happen, okay? Someone broke his hand. And he's coming to the doctor and he's saying to his doctor, it's hard for me, it's hurting me, it's hard, everything else. And the doctor is saying to him, okay, we have a few things that we need to do. And he's saying to him the list, and this person is saying, no, I don't want to take any medicines. I don't want to take anything that will heal me. So you're saying to yourself, he's an idiot person. Now, I know that there are people who prefer not to take medicines, I'll say it like that. I don't know exactly how to say that. I know that in the Hebrew tradition, it's in our parsha, what we read yesterday. Rav Shmuel Hershler is here. Rav Shmuel, thank you very much for coming.
My great pleasure. Good evening, good afternoon to you all.
Yes. So it's also in our parsha. V'rapo yirapeh. Okay, there is a permission, and it's more than a permission. It's some sort of obligation to men to be part of this, I will say, system of the world to heal people from their illnesses.
Yes.
So those who don't want to get any relation with God, with the doctors, and to be only in a way that they're not getting any help from the doctors, I think that they're doing wrong with themselves, and they're not behaving in the way that God is asking us to behave in this world.
There is a point,
Again,
but there is a point. In my experience with drugs that doctors give, they are so addictive, and you can't, like, I've seen too many people die even from drugs. When you come to a point, you have to weigh what your doctor is giving you. You have the ability to check out what is in these drugs, what can help me, and what is bad for me. So what is bad for me, there is no way. I don't take medicines unless I know that they're going to help my body, or if they don't, there is no way I will take them, because Hashem gave me a immune system, and I go with that. So it's my experience. Doctors are not all good.
Angelica, no, you're more than right. We need also to test about the doctors, if they are good or not good. Sometimes doctors are giving also, I will say, medicines and things like that it will help. I can give an example that I lately, someone wanted my advice, and he adopted a girl. Okay, the couple adopted a girl, and she's already 14 or 15 years old, and she's very she have a lot of problems, and they took her to a special hospital. They had no other choice, and in the hospital they also didn't manage, and they asked the couple, what do they prefer to do? To give her drugs that she will be, what we call in a zombie mode, or that they want to try another thing before that. So the couple said in a very reasonable way, okay, when they asked also their advice and everything else, let's try first of all a few things before that, before we putting this girl to, as you said, a drug situation of zombie. So of course you need also to adjust you with yourself and to realize who are the doctors and what they're asking to do. I know also another example that I know that someone we can give a lot of examples. The principle is very simple. We need to have the help of the doctors, and we need to be with an open-minded to check things and not to say everything that the doctor is saying, everything is right. You know, a bit of a sense. I agree with you.
I agree. Yeah,
Fair enough.
because I've seen too much, and nobody weighs anything anymore. Everybody just says, well, the doctor gave me this and I have to take it. Oh, well, you know what? I get a call from a family, she died. I'm like, oh, you need to weigh things. But anyway,
Okay, fair enough. Thank you very much. I will answer Italo, and then we will jump to Abba Shmuel. He is also continuing something from last week, and also that is related with the next parsha. So Italo, about the 7 laws, are they part of the 613, or are they above it? There are some of the sages of the Hebrew sages are saying that it's part of them. Some of the Hebrew sages are saying that it's above them. Okay. In any case, the Hebrew people are also obligated to those 7 commandments. Okay, it's not something apart of the Hebrew obligation. And as I said before, most of the sages are saying that this amount of mitzvot, commandments, this is the amount, but some of them also saying that it's more or it's less. You know, so it's not also mathematics, science, okay? The exact. It's a concept of the ideas that it's also related with the time and with us in this world, as I said before. Let's continue here. Let's stop here, sorry, for a moment. If you have more questions and things like that, you will be able also to ask later on. I want Rabbi Hirschler to say a few words. What I'm asking, Dan, you with us? If you can close for a moment the, I will say the recording.
General agreement with that addiction in general is something which is dangerous of all types, whether it be alcohol, whether it be money, whether it be drugs. And actually, they say today that the most dangerous addiction is gambling because it's even hard to get out of that entirely. But what you mentioned about being a drug addict, it indirectly relates part to the theme of what I was about to present to you. Is in this coming week's portion, we talk about the building of a sanctuary and donations that are used for it. And the rabbi mentioned also the issue of the permission given for doctors to involved in healing other people and physicians. Why does actually the divine need us to be charitable and actually help for these kind of functions? I mean, he has endless potential of his own. And why should people be ill if he wants them to be recovering anyhow? He certainly can keep them in good health. One of the leading German Jewish scholars in the 19th century, Samson Raphael Hirsch, said the word stakar, charity, comes from the word tzedek, justice. There's a concept which in English is very well known in the general world called today redistribution of wealth. Namely, there are people that are more affluent than others, and this is purposely done so that the affluent have a challenge to show their ability to become charitable, And those who are less fortunate financially have to be able to live up to proper religiosity despite the fact that they are underprivileged, relatively speaking. I'm using that expression today because what people today consider to be relatively poor 60, 70 years ago was more than middle class. The expression of being poor is a very subjective thing and is very much related to competition. But it doesn't mean that people that today who are not necessarily high class would have been considered poor 40, 50 years ago, not at all. So things actually change in that respect all the time. And yet that challenge of the more affluent to be kind and to act with justice, and those who are less fortunate to remain to completely strong believers, is very essential to the religious process and part of the challenge that God has given the human being in trying to upgrade himself. And after the revelation at Sinai, which includes the judicial system, we find within that portion dealing with the judicial system, surprisingly, the laws of the Sabbath and the festivals are mentioned there as well. Even the sabbatical year once every 7 years in the land of Israel is mentioned for the first time in the Torah, actually in the Jewish legal system, which is quite fascinating because one would think that the Sabbath, the festivals, and the sabbatical year are primarily between man and God, whereas a legal system, which is shared by mankind as a whole, is a very classical man-to-man type of setup. But in actual fact, when you think about it more in depth, the real way to handle being charitable and to handle the idea of having a good legal system is when we are less addicted to our possessions. Well, somebody used expressions that we are prisoners of our own possessions. When we can't even take one day off from work in favor of upgrading ourselves spiritually, we become addicted to money. If every second decision that we make in our lives is whether it's worth it financially or not, we don't really have the ability to enjoy our lives. And that balance between being very obsessive financially and yet at the same time to be charitable and kind to other people is part of the challenge that we have. And in the Ten Commandments itself, for example, that one shall not covet and one will not steal and one will not commit homicide, one would think that these are not on the same level. Homicide is a terrible thing. Theft is being very unethical. But if I see somebody else has a nice car and I have no incentive to steal it from him, I just covet and see that he's got it. So what's the problem with that? Why put it in the same level, so to speak, with issues like idolatry, adultery, and homicide, which are cardinal sins? How can you put that on a similar boat and almost on the same level? The truth is that the roots that lead people to get to theft, and when they have a difficulty to get to theft, they may even take a person's life, is because of that continuous jealousy that people have to each other. I know the rabbi had taught also parts of Genesis where we find that Cain was jealous of Abel, and when he sees that God responds to Abel
רב
and not to
שמואל, רב
himself.
שמואל, רב שמואל,
Yes.
שנייה, יש לך, you have interference in your line, if you can organize it a bit, because it's really
Surprising.
bothering.
Why, you don't hear me well? I
Fine,
have a pretty
fine.
good Wi-Fi.
Please,
I'm
sorry,
surprised you have
Okay,
not at all. So anyhow, so what I'm suggesting is that from the very spark of creation, that human jealousy can lead eventually to people to get to the most disastrous type of behavior. And yet, a person who develops the principle of being charitable will also understand that there are priorities in life that we should always give them first approach and be our first goal. And that's part of building a synagogue and the study of Torah as we are doing in this learning together, because these are things which give fuel and meaning to what we do. I mean, we need to earn a living in order to support our families, in order to find time to be able to study and also to have the religious structures that we need, which may also be costly, similar to our own building up of our own families. But we have to realize that these are means and not the ideal in its own. And once we see it in that way, and once we see that every 6 days of the week we have one day that we take off, and to a large extent we put our spiritual goal into that day. And when we have a chance, hopefully someday also to pilgrim to Jerusalem, upon when there will be a temple and the choice of living in the Holy Land, even if financially there are certain parts of the world where it may be slightly easier, but we are choosing a goal that makes our whole attitude and orientation towards life in a more positive way. That is how our scholars explain to some of the Gentiles around the world, in fact, why did God purposely create certain things with imperfection? Not only that he didn't want to support some of the people that are poor, so that the affluent will learn how to redistribute their wealth. And when a person does a circumcision and he's born with the foreskin and he's expected to remove the foreskin in the Jewish tradition, and that's also because a person has to be involved personally in dealing with his shortcomings, knowing that he doesn't have everything, and he has to make an effort to improve in his behavior. And of course, if you don't have all the pleasures of life, that doesn't mean that you should take advantage of another person on the way. You get what you need, and you can trust that God, if he gives to somebody else a little bit more, maybe that person needs more than you need. You don't have to necessarily be jealous of somebody else who has more possessions, a nicer car, and makes more overseas trips than yourself per annum. That's not something that needs to become a legal issue whatsoever. And the juxtaposition that the Bible brings between the revelation, the legal system, and the building of the sanctuary seems to lead to that impression that indeed, in the very backbone of our religious behavior, we have to be always considerate towards what other people need. And if we are to build that thinking process of being helpful towards others, how would we think of stealing from them and causing them harm? Instead of trying to cause any trouble to another person, we're going out of our way to be kind with people instead. Not only will we not take from them, we'll go out of our way to be helpful towards them. That'll be the real cure. That's the type of way to handle these situations, to start off with the right orientation in the first place. And there are many commentators, not all, that claim that the idea of actually building a sanctuary was an ideal in its very own, because the revelation, and as important as it was a one-time feature, something which in Jewish thought is considered very central in faith, because we believe that hundreds of thousands of people can testify to that revelation. As I know the rabbi teaches Maimonides, he talks about that in various places. And in order to actually have a regular encounter with God, we build on our own account a structure where, so to speak, his presence will be well felt. I once heard from one of the chief rabbis in one of the countries overseas, what's the difference? Is there such a thing as dirty money? I'll say something about that. What's the difference between praying at the Western Wall or praying in Nashville, Tennessee? So if you recall 30 years ago, not so much today, there used to be quite a difference in price between phoning a person between Nashville and New York City, or phoning between Nashville and South America or Israel. That used to be an international call, whereas phoning within the United States was merely a local call. And to that end, what I am suggesting is that the divine presence in the Holy Land is more obvious than elsewhere. And if we want to perpetuate the connection between us and God, similar to the revelation, which was his appearance, we have to try to make an effort from our side to bring him in. And part of our belief that God is a very ethical God and he wants us to be kind and honest amongst ourselves, he says the following: I'll be happy to dwell amongst you, but there is a prerequisite which needs to be met. And that prerequisite is that we will be ethical and honest between us, and then he'll be happy to be amongst us as well. Even in our own families, when there's peace between husband and wife, the divine presence is felt. When there's peace within the nation, the divine presence is felt. And when we act in decency towards each other with less jealousy and crime, much the same. Dirty money, as you're saying, would be money that is achieved in ways that are unethical and also causing somebody else pain on the way. Because if it is achieved and received in legal ways and in a kind and without false behavior or cheating, it's something that you can be proud of. But to have money that you achieved and taking advantage of somebody who is weak, that's not something that you can be happy with. And at least in as far as the Jewish Talmud and other religious sources, to build any religious center, to bring a sacrifice even to the temple, which is based on theft, is something that God does not desire. In fact, better not to bring than to bring something that starts off on an unethical level. The beginning of the story of the legal system deals with a person who was sold to be a slave. How did a person become a slave in Jewish law? It's a person who, first of all, stole and didn't have enough money to repay the person he had stolen from, and the court of law would sell him at the time, like you would say today, a person who's doing service for the community. But you're talking about a person who already has an unethical background and something that needs to be fixed up. So dirty money of that nature is definitely not beneficial. I want to leave the floor to you. If you want to ask questions or further, you're more than welcome. I know I have limited time to speak, so this is the opening I would like to say to you. I believe, once again, that charity comes from justice, and justice is what brings a distance from jealousy. And when we don't have jealousy, we won't have homicide, we won't have theft, we'll have more trust in our own families, and we won't be addicted to money, rather addicted, so to speak, to positive things like spiritual growth and seeking a connection with God, who doesn't want to see us hurting each other. So you're welcome to ask.
Very well said. Yeah, thank you so much, Rabbi Hirschler.
My pleasure. Great pleasure.
We see more and more in these day and age that question that you kind of brought up, the difference between equality and equity, and we're seeing a lot of things stripped from, say, the middle class in the name of equity. Rather than just being, equal opportunity, no, it's you have more, so we're taking from you to give to those in need. And that's becoming more and more alarming in the West here for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be certain people, the Caucasians felt that the Afro-Americans, when they were involved in theft, there was somewhat of a sympathy that they were underprivileged, and therefore maybe they were somehow, you can indirectly justify that some of them were acting a little bit in what we would call theft if they're taking advantage of other people. But even if that would have theoretically had some place, when they go and act in cruelty towards other people of their own background, and sometimes even more obnoxiously than towards me, then the whole justifiability falls apart. Because if you're doing it at least to improve your standard and that of your brethren, it's one thing. But if you all of a sudden become more well-to-do, and then you continue to be unfair towards your own native people, then what have you achieved? And it happens, sadly.
Yeah, so true, so true. Does anybody got any questions for Rabbi
There
Hirschler?
is a
or
question
even-
in the chat. Rabbi Shmuel, there's a
I
question in
didn't
the
see the
chat.
last one. What was it? I didn't see the last one. What
In
was
the
the
chat,
question there?
Italo is asking if there is what we call today a dirty money.
Ah, I spoke about that. Yeah, I believe that there is. I mean, money that is achieved through false action. You know what? I had a case I dealt with a couple of days ago. A lawyer that's representing a family that's they have an executor who's taking care of the estate of their late parents. And there's quite a bit of money involved, but the truth is the amount of work that the lawyer had to do in order to execute the actual estate was maybe 15 hours worth of work. The amount of money the person wants for helping the family there is absolutely ridiculous. And I have legal experience. So what are they doing? They're trying to, he wants to take 1% of the overvalue of the estate, or more than 1%. And it's, the truth is that's the only backbone that this family has, is what their late parents had left for them. And the amount of work this lawyer did for them, $5,000, $10,000 would be more than what he really did for them. Even if he gave them 20,000, reasonable. But the amount he wants is an exorbitant sum. To me, that's dirty money because, first of all, it's not money that these people themselves had earned. It's something that was worked very hard by their late parents, and they worked so hard to help their families survive after they died. And now for a lawyer taking advantage of them to an extreme extent, when I know for a fact that the amount of work involved that he needed in this case was so limited. So these kind of things irritate me because here's an opportunity to be kind to people who feel sad enough that they lost a parent just recently. It was an opportunity to help them to build up their own families. So you'll make some money elsewhere, but why take advantage of people at a time of being sorrow? These kind of things are what I call dirty money, if you ask me. I don't know if legally what he's doing is illegal, but it's certainly taking advantage of people at a time of weakness, giving to people who want to take advantage of our kindness. Yeah.
Fair enough. Thank you very much, Rabbi Shmuel. Okay.
My absolute pleasure. Thinking about,
There's another thing here with Italo.
yeah, the slavery has always been something which is perturbed. I was born in Illinois, and Abe Lincoln used to be part of our upbringing and thinking about the Civil War and the fight against slavery, something which requires a lot of thoughts. How, for such a long time, a country that has believed in democracy, it took such a long time to overcome this behavior. Something to think about. I admit.
Rabbi Shmuel, Collins Ubido has a question there on the chat, and it's really relevant myself. He says, how do we deal with continual giving to people who want to take advantage of our kindness by always returning with more demands? For me, this is a frustration. I have a difficulty, I think, as we read about Jacob today, sending the angels to Esau, how he didn't learn from Laban. We see here in the West an awful lot of people that use what is known as dark psychology to try and manipulate circumstances to their own advantage. But yeah, Collins had that question. How do we deal with continual giving to people who want to take advantage of our kindness?
Colin's point is extremely valid, and so is yours. In fact, I don't know if Rav Chaim could mention in one opportunity, there is a prayer that we say in Hebrew at the end of the morning service, which actually is a request that we shall be approached for charity by decent people and not by indecent people. We have one of the faiths that Judaism believes in the period of the desert. There was the manna that came down for 39 years. And it came, like you were speaking earlier about, in an equilibrium. And when people start to take advantage of others who are charitable and they don't need it, and they're abusing, and as a result, people that really need are not getting, and you are exposed to that, the frustration is 100%. I'll tell you one secret. When a person approaches me for charity and he's smoking or smells of alcohol, I rarely give. There are certain things which I'm not tolerating. If the person is smoking in my face and asking me to support them, what, for cigarettes? I'll be happy to buy them breakfast in a supermarket for the equivalent of $50 and give it to them the food directly. But to buy things that are unhealthy, which I don't even bring into my own house, I don't see any incentive to support people addicted to alcohol or cigarettes. These are things which I don't.
What about dark psychology? Like you mentioned the story of the lawyer, and we've seen that. And if you've ever been involved with being taken advantage of by a lawyer, I mean, they use a lot of dark psychology to manipulate the hours being billed, and I find it just atrocious. I have no toleration for those that use dark psychological tactics. It's just wicked.
Absolutely. It's what they call in this country white collar crime. Because these people don't, they don't break into a bank or steal in a supermarket. They do it in a much more sophisticated way. And they know how to take advantage of people in a situation like that. And at one moment, they just grab $1 million. It's disgusting. And it's so distant from what Judaism was about and still is about. You're right. It is a real problem.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think this is enough for tonight. We've learned a lot. Again, you know our emails and everything else. If you have any more questions along the week, it's you can send us, and we'll try to refer back. And thank you very much. Thank you also very much, Rabbi Shmuel,
Look
Dan,
forward
for
to see you again
operating
next
all of the
Sunday.
things. And yes, and we will send the subjects and everything else in the beginning of in the middle of the week.
All right.
Okay.
So Rabbi Chaim, are you good tentatively, Hashem willing, for next Sunday?
Yes. Bezrat Hashem. Hopefully, yes.
All right. So there you have it, folks. That's going to be our Genesis class for this week. Thank you, Rabbi Hirschler, for sharing words of Torah with us. It's very deep and meaningful. Thank you.
My great pleasure. Look forward to see you again probably next week as well.
Excellent. So yeah, we're gonna call it a day for our Genesis class, but we will be back next Sunday with more Genesis class with Rabbi Chaim Goldberg of the Noahide World Center, and Hashem willing, Rabbi Shmuel Hirschler will join us. Always good to have him with us. He's got such wisdom to share. Myself, I will be on in a few hours with Rabbi Carmi Ingber in our Working Together series with the Nativ group, and also later on this evening with Rabbi Shlomo Schwartz as well, for anybody who wants to join in that Zoom meeting. Yeah, so we're going to sign out for today. Have a wonderful, wonderful week, everybody. Bye for now.